Okay, so tonight I want to talk about the being able to render in stereo for Houdini, which is not in the documentation provided by Leia, but actually works pretty well. Before I do that, I want to clarify a few terms that can be confusing because they were confusing me. The first one is the Zero-Parallex plane. And this is defined. I was looking at the Looking Glass documentation. So the concept is that is the plane where when you turn your head, it doesn't change anything. So there's no parallax. If it's in front or behind, you will have parallax. The sphere will, things appear to move. That's when you're kind of moving. You see more of the 3D when you're looking at the thing. Like I said, I got good results in cinema by putting the subject in between. They had like an area there that we looked at last week. The other term, which is specific to Houdini, let me pull this thing out of the way. And this is from the Houdini documentation for their stereo camera. It is zero-parallax setting. So the ZPS is not the plane. It is the points that intersect between the left and right eye. So if the plane actually coincides, where these things coincides with the viewing screen. So if something's in front of the plane, it'll appear to be outside the screen. That's why if you put things close to you, it'll look more 3D-ish. And if they're farther away, they'll look less so because they'll look like they're in the screen. And that is the setting here that I set to 1,000. Now I noticed when I played with this setting, let me get this out of the way, what it does, what is it? So if I do 10 and then you can see, or if I go very small, this number here, you can see what. So this is what it is at 100. If you change it to 1,000, why am I not seeing it? Okay, so this is what it is at 1,000. If you put this at 5, see it gets a little, and if you do 10,000, let's see what we get here. It's probably, so these things are pretty close. Now the way I had to do this, the thing that worked well for me, is I use the stereo camera, which is what we're looking at. I set this at 0.075, could be 0.065, and let me see something. View perspective. So these are relatively close. And we do I said we 0.075. Typically we've seen 6.5, which would be, I guess, 0.065. And what I did, notice you have a left and a right. So what you can do is you can do the stereo left, and you can do the stereo right. And when you render, let's go back to this stereo, you actually see it with the red and the blue. when you go to the out, what you get is you can choose the right and left camera. So what I did to get a really nice output is I rendered the right and I rendered the left eye separately. And I went into Resolve. Let me see where my Resolve is hiding. Oh, here it is. It's back here. So what I did, let me go back here in order to, I'm going to save this. When I went to the editor, notice there's a sync and a right and a left. What happens is, and we see this last week, you put the left eye folder in here, the right in here, you sync and you get one. Now notice it's just a single image. However, remember, if that being the case, because we had a left and a right, when we go to put it out, it knows that. So what we want to do in this case, so we get stereo, is come down here and tell it, come here and tell it to render both eyes side by side. And then you of course run it through the Lume Pad's, or what they call it, the software that will take the stereo image and turn it a 2x2, a 2x1 and turn it into a 2x2. Now, if you had rendered out in stereo, then you'd want one thing. So you'd want an allograph, even though it's not, may not really be an allograph. So that is the scoop in terms of being able to do this in Houdini. The point being, the important points that you want to understand is any software or camera that you can get a 1x2, a left eye and a right eye image, or better still, if you have a camera, can do a 2x2, but like the Lume Pad camera will do a 2x2, so you don't have to process it at all. You can take that 2x1, run it through the software, and get a 2x2. Where you place the objects, as I said last time, determines what it looks like in terms of 3D. And again, with this the setting we saw in Houdini, if it was in front of the closer, if it was in front of whatever that distance is, which is the ZP, where everything intersects, it's kind of like the I guess you'd call it like a plane of intersection. It is called the, let's go back to the camera. It is called the Zero-Parallex setting, distance, the Zero-Parallex setting plane from the camera. So if it's in front, it'll look like it's coming out. If it's at, it's going to look, it's right on the, right at the edge. If it's behind, it's going to look like it's in the screen. So that explains why I had some issue in looking at him. Like I said last time, I'm like, why am I not getting something that looks 3D? So if you're doing your 2x2, your 1x2, and you're still not getting it, look where your subjects are, and make sure that they're close enough that or the distance will determine what kind of a 3D representation you get. And again, this is Houdini. This was not in the Lume Pad documentation, but the principles, you can take the principles that they discuss with Cinema 4D, and use that for any other application that'll render out in stereo. So to sum up, what's the key thing tonight? Key is that this will work great in Houdini. That you have like we said last time, the plane determines how it's going to appear, and in this case I made things relatively close. And those are the two big takeaways in terms of that. One other thing I want to show you, let's see if I can bring this up, because I want to show you what I'm working on that we will be discussing. And I think it's kind of fun because I'm taking different things and I'm putting them together to get something out. Where'd it go? So I'm still working with this in terms of trying to get the camera right and so on, and a bunch of other things. But let's bring up the other. I gotta go to content, and what we're going to talk about is landscape. And you got the landscape, you got the stuff that came from the reality capture software, the 3D model, the software that creates 3D models from photographs. And you have, let's see, what else? Oh, going from cinema to Unreal Engine. So this is going to be a lot of meaty stuff to talk about. And so that we will be getting into. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully, as I get more familiar with this Lume Pad and getting things out for it, I'll be able to get you more familiar with it and understand the terminology. I had a professor when I was in grad school who said the key to learning anything is understanding the terminology. Once you get the terminology, you're halfway there. So keep that in mind, and I will speak to you next time. Take care.